Hey ladies, how's it going today? I hope you all are doing wonderful. I know it's Thursday, it's about 5:30, and I had something that I wanted to share with you all this week. And I actually had a client who is going through the same stuff that I'm talking about, and I want to share kind of that story and how I helped her. And really get into this. So this is so important. We talk about this stuff all of the time. I think as women, we are looking to overcome this guilty feeling while we're protecting our energy, while we're trying to set boundaries, while we're trying to live our best life, right? So I want to definitely talk through that today. I have a lot of juicy stuff that I want to share with you, so I'm excited to do that. And if you are here live, go ahead and put live. If you are in the replay, go ahead and put replay. I'd love to see who is joining. And I want to know if you have questions. Feel free to drop them in the comments, and I would love to address them, whether or not I'm live or just at a different time. That's totally fine too. So what I first want to do is define for you what the word guilt means. So sometimes we do this, we say this word, right? And we, it's just part of our language, right? So I really want to kind of focus in because I think it's important to know what guilt actually means. And it's a very heavy feeling. A very heavy feeling that holds us back and makes us do things that we don't want to do. And it's just like, it's exhausting to carry around, right? So guilt is defined as the fact of having committed a specified or implied offense or crime. Okay, so I want you to kind of, a feeling of having done wrong or failed in an obligation. Okay, so there's like a failure piece, right, done wrong. I want you to kind of keep that definition in mind while we go through this session today. And I want you to think about what it means when you think about your energy. So I have a wonderful group of friends. Some of them are coaches, and what was really amazingly pointed out, she's amazing, hopefully to have her in here talking to all of us someday soon, but she was talking about how our energy is so freaking important. We have to protect it. We have to really do a lot to to preserve it, right? This is it's the way we live our life. It's the way we interact with the world. Our energy is our currency. So that's something she says a lot, and I freaking love hearing that because it's so true, right? That is what we do, especially when we're kind of running a family, a household, a business, right? We need that energy to do what we need to do. All right, so I want you to keep those two things in mind as you're watching today. And just knowing too, I'm going to use more so, I think, work examples in this, but of course, work and personal can blend. And they also can be dealt with in similar ways. So I want you just to kind of note that. Now, I want to talk about the client that I had that had a similar story. So we're going to just call her Sally. Sally came to me. She had this terrible job. She liked what she did, but the work environment was not supportive of her. She was getting taken advantage of because she really cared about what she did. She wanted to be thorough. She was very sweet, very compassionate, is very sweet and compassionate, and really always just wants to do a good job. And she cares about her work, right? And the other people around her, not so much. They cared mostly about themselves, not really the teamwork, just putting stuff on her and things like that. And, that caused her to be exhausted, to be burned out. To have that lack of motivation. And I want to talk about how we can address these things. So number one way to overcome your guilt while protecting your energy. And number one, right, to just put it in practical terms, we're going to talk about boundaries, placing those clear boundaries. But I'm going to kind of speak to that in a roundabout way. But boundaries, right, those are our fences, our kind of our gatekeepers to our energy and access to us. But number one, what I want you to do to address this is I want you to ask yourself some questions. So you have to understand who you are, what belief systems that you've come from, and I'll give you some examples of those. And I want you just to kind of note that. You can share it in the comments, or you can share personally just with yourself, but understanding who you are is very important because it's going to help you understand the different ways to relate and how to place your boundaries. But a lot of times I see this narrative, and I'm guilty of like all of these things. So just know that this is coming with no judgment, but just support. But a lot of folks that I talk to, women, are having issues with people pleasing. And think about, and it's not your fault, right? Think about how you were brought up. Think about what examples were taught to you. Think about maybe the way society treats us, right? Be quiet, be nice, right? Follow the rules, right? All the different things that we have to do as women that are maybe a little different. And then we act in that people-pleasing way, which is not necessarily healthy for us, but that also when we don't act in that people-pleasing way, then we feel that guilt, right? That's where the guilt comes in. Another type of way that we relate to the world is being a perfectionist. Again, hello, I've been all of these, right? I've had all these experiences. And perfectionism is another way where we really go all in, we work really hard, and in our work is what our quality of work or what we try to put out, that is more important to us sometimes than ourselves, right? So that's important to note. And where does that come from? That can come from, if you think about, again, our past, like, were we supposed to follow the rules? Were we taught that, that we weren't necessarily, our contributions weren't necessarily valuable? Were we compared to other people? Did we have to be perfect to relate to others and feel loved or feel worthy? And also another one that kind of goes with that is kind of like the workaholic piece, where that productivity equals that worthiness, right? So all of these kind of relate in some way. And if you have something else that I haven't talked about, feel free to drop that in the chat, in the comments. But all of these things, it's important. So people-pleasing, perfectionism, the workaholic, productivity, really productive personalities, all of these are protections for us. And that might sound kind of backwards because it's not really serving us. So how does that protect us? But think about the way that you learn to relate to people or learn to get what you wanted when you were kind of growing up or coming along, or how society told you to act, right? We act as a people pleaser so that we don't get rejected, right? We act so that people will like us, so that we get love, so that we get attention, so that we get that warm, good feeling. We act as a perfectionist so that our work won't get rejected, that our personality or the way we present won't get rejected, because that's hurtful, right? Workaholic, our productivity, that makes us worthy. And those things can be passed down generationally, unintentionally, they can be spoken or unspoken, but it's so important to know that these are all functioning as a protection in our relationships. So whether that's at work, whether that's at home with friends, family, etc. So that's what you're going to have to keep in mind as we talk about this, but knowing where you're coming from is so helpful, and that it's only trying to serve as a protection for you and the rest of the world. So number 2, how to overcome guilt when protecting your energy, is practicing some detachment. And if you're here right now, I'd love to know, if you're live, please put that in the comments. If you are watching the replay, go ahead and do that. And feel free to drop any questions that you have. So number 2 is practicing detachment. And another way to word this is creating space. So when we are feeling guilty for putting up boundaries or protecting our energy, a lot of times we're kind of enmeshed in what we're doing, whether that's the work relationship or a relationship with somebody else, a person. We need to kind of detach a little bit because we're too far in, we're too far invested, and most of the time we're putting them, the work or whatever, first, again, as that protection, but we need to create a little space in between us and that thing. So as a work example, you may ask yourself some questions here. And this is this my responsibility? And not in a way of like, I'm not gonna go out of my way to help someone out ever, but it's like, is this my responsibility? Is somebody asking me to do their job and I'm not being compensated for it? They're never covering my shift or my responsibilities, right? Is this fair? Is this in my job description? Is this something that I'm gonna be paid to do, right? When we sign up for a job, we usually kind of sign a job description or a contract that tells us the expectation of what we are supposed to do. I know there's that little line that says other duties as assigned, and we used to laugh at that at my old job, but because it would literally be anything. I used to like sling cotton candy in my old job. That was never in any sort of job description, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, is this part of my job description? Who's putting this expectation on me? Do I just kind of make up a story in my head that somebody else is counting on me to do this work that's extra and above and beyond? Or is this me that's doing that? Is this my perfectionism? Is this my people pleasing coming out? Is this healthy for me? Does this contribute to my goal of health and wellness, or, becoming a better version of me? Does this contribute to that? Or does this contribute to the opposite, right? So these are good questions to ask yourself. Usually the detachment can kind of come when you can show yourself a little bit of that proof of, I have no valid evidence to know if this person wants me to do this or not. I'm just kind of doing extra because I feel it will be helpful. Or, this actually isn't part of my job responsibilities, and it could actually cause me more stress and cause me to be ill or whatever, right? And you have to stand up for yourself and protect your energy in that way. And, it is okay. I want you all to know too, it is okay to have these healthy boundaries, right? Like, I think that we get so scared. Oh, I just saw some comments. Sorry, y'all. For some reason, it never shows up right here. But, some reason we get so scared to put up these boundaries, and it is okay. It is okay to have these healthy boundaries, whether that's with a family member, whether that's with our workplace, whatever that is, like, that is okay for you to have and put in there. Constantly, I just see a comment, constantly doing work that I'm not getting paid to do, and then you're looked at as a team, not a team player if you don't do it, right? So, and of course there's a balance, but you have to feel comfortable. So if you go into work that day and maybe you're not feeling your best and they ask you to do all this extra work, then you can say, that's where it's okay to say no and have that boundary of say, no, I'm not, this isn't part of my responsibilities. I don't feel well. Like, doing this might cause me more harm than good. And I think, again, that goes back to kind of like that fear of judgment, I think, as women that we have is like, oh my gosh, if we say no, like, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to be ostracized? Am I going to be, fired? That's pretty extreme. Normally that doesn't happen, but like, am I going to be ostracized? Are they not going to like me anymore? Are they going to talk about me? Right? So I think it's also, being fair to yourself and, then being honest with yourself of, is this realistic? Who's more important, their opinion or mine, or my health, right? And then two, communicating those healthy boundaries. I think sometimes people get nervous and feel like it's more of a confrontation, but there are ways, and we can talk through that a little bit more in another training or one-on-one, but there are ways that you can communicate where it's very respectful, very professional, and, appropriate even, right? That's why they have HR, right? They have HR if you have issues and people aren't listening to you as well. So just some points on that. Okay, so that was 2. So we've got understanding who you are and your beliefs, where you're coming from. 2 is creating some space with some detachment. 3 is practicing being more clear. Clarity is so important. The woman who I'm speaking about, who is my client, she's like, I realized I was doing this dance with, somebody else in my life. We would go back and forth, and I would never tell them what I wanted. And then I would get upset. It was this cycle, right? Then I would get upset because we would have to do whatever they wanted to do. And then I would say something, or that we would get in an argument, but then they would say, well, you never said anything, right? But she said, I didn't say anything because I didn't know what I wanted. Because she was never given that opportunity growing up. She wasn't asked her opinion. When she did give her opinion, she got, negative responses for that. So why would she feel safe giving her opinion now? So it's really being very clear, again, about yourself and what you're bringing to the table. But also, it's about, knowing yourself and knowing what you want, being very clear about your vision and what you want. And the more clear that you are, what your values are, right? What you're willing to stand for and what you're willing to say no about, all of that, the more clear that you are about yourself, the more clear that your boundaries will be, your values will be. You'll be able to communicate them clearly without that emotion attached to it, right? That's hard to kind of put on there sometimes. And your behavior will be clear too. So that's so important to again, know yourself, and those are the number one thing in my Braver program is the big, bold dreams. What are your big, bold dreams? That's your vision. That's creating your very clear vision for where you want to be going, okay? And again, the clearer that is, the clearer that you're going to be able to communicate your needs and know what you're gonna entertain and what you're not, right? Again, putting those clear boundaries up. The third tenet of my program is knowing yourself, right? So knowing yourself a little bit more. And again, the more clear you are on your preferences, your likes, your dislikes, your values, your mission, you're going to be able to very clearly say yes or no and not feel any guilt about it, because you're very clear and you're committed to your path in life, and then it's going to help detach the confusion. The confusion's painful, okay? So those are just two of the 6 pillars of my program. Also, we are going to be doing, for those of you who maybe didn't get to catch the Game Changer Life Vision Workshop, I'm going to be running that again in March. So the week of March 8th, we're going to start. I'm really excited. You'll see more about that soon. But oh my gosh, such good feedback from that last one if you were in there. So many good insights. It really got people thinking about knowing themselves, what they wanted out of life, and their vision, their direction, where we want to start to go with this. So look out for that. I'm excited to bring that back. Okay, so recapping. Number 1, understanding who you are. 2, creating that detachment. 3, practicing being more clear. And also, to add to that, I want you to start making decisions, definitive decisions. So if it is that you can't do that extra workload of that day, make that decision and stand behind it. Stand behind yourself and support yourself in that, okay? Know your reasoning for that. I want you to start practicing that. And sometimes we can practice that in a more easy environment, like maybe at home or with a partner or something, like, you know, that whole fight of like, where are we going to dinner? What do you want for dinner? It maybe is just practicing little steps like that of like, okay, it's Olive Garden, period, right? So just kind of starting to practice being more clear and definitive about what you want in life will help you then communicate, again, your boundaries to help you protect your energy. And the more that you do that, the less guilt you'll feel, because you need to be standing in your truth and in your practice, walking that walk with that, okay? 4, and this is the important one, right, is giving yourself the permission to stop the cycle and to be very graceful with yourself in that. So stop the cycle of the guilt. And here's the cycle, right? It's the people pleasing or the perfectionism, whatever that is. It's putting something else before yourself, whether that's a person, whether that's your work, whatever. You're sacrificing yourself, and then you become resentful. And this may be stuff that's asked of you or not asked of you, right? You become resentful because you don't feel you're able to communicate. You don't feel like you're able to put a boundary. You haven't put a boundary. And so then you can feel that anger, right? And that can lead to more anger, resentment, and that can lead to that lack of motivation, right? Because then it's like overwhelm, right? Exhaustion. Or it can lead to arguments if you think about your partner or your family members or friends, right? That can lead to arguments because deep down you know, like, this isn't right, this doesn't align with me. But, right, it's getting that courage, it's stepping into your courage to stop the cycle. And it's going to be a little uncomfortable because this is the way that it's been for a while, right? But to stop the cycle and to recognize that it's time to put your needs first, and to protecting your energy is so important. And you're going to be able to speak up and become more clear about your needs. And that's going to feel weird at first, but it's going to feel amazing afterwards because you will feel more confident in yourself. And you won't have to put up with some crap, right? And I just want to kind of wrap up the story of the client that I'm talking about with this. So we went through all of these things. We went through literally all of these things, talking about how to do this. And she implemented. And she ended up recognizing, this is the best part. I love it because this is my mission, right? To help women finally recognize their worth and their value and decide, I'm not taking this shit anymore, and go after the thing that they want to go after. Like, how freaking empowering and awesome and inspiring is that? And she recognized her worth. She said, this environment is not supportive of me. these people are not supporting me. They're just taking advantage, right? And she got a new job, a supportive boss that actually cares. Her old boss was not supporting her. She got a new job, a supportive boss, and $10,000 a year. What would you do with an extra $10,000 a year? Like, sometimes we have to just put the math on it. We have to put the math on it because I have another story about math one day, or I will share that one day about my own math that I had to do. Because when we don't put the math on it, we won't know like how much it's costing us to stay where we are. In this complacent, exhausted, angry, upset, guilty spot. Like, that's not a great way to live life, right? It's not. So when you know your value, step into your bravery, you recognize your value, and you take action, that is where that transformation is. That is where the good stuff comes. That's when everything aligns for you and you feel good. Yeah, you don't feel stuck. You don't feel burned out. You don't feel this like yucky energy anymore, right? That's my mission. That's what I help people with. And right now what I'm doing, I want to support you with this. I'm doing 30-minute free breakout strategy sessions. We're going to go through your dreams, where you want to go. We're going to go through what's holding you back. And we're going to design a plan for you of how to get there. And I want you to take advantage of this. I'm going to post the link in here, but I want you to take advantage of this because this is your year. This is your time. If you even have like a little inkling of like something that needs to change, do it now. Collapse the time. A lot of times we spent, I don't know how many years I spent thinking about this business that I wanted to do. All that time, right? Thinking about this business that I wanted to do. And I was like scared and didn't step into my bravery or my courage. And I was stuck in the people pleasing. I was stuck in the exhaustion. I was stuck in the burnout cycle. It doesn't have to be like this. I'm sharing this with you all because I know that there's better for you. This is what it's all about, okay? Sign up for the breakthrough strategy session with me. Thank you all. I hope this was helpful. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and we'll talk soon. Have a good night.